Hey, welcome to this week's episode of the Scalable Expert Podcast. I am so thrilled that you're here. Hey, in this episode, I want to talk about your authority framework. So, the foundation of all things infinite scale is really setting up your authority framework. So, your authority framework is really where you're taking your expertise and putting it into a step-by-step methodology that allows you to consistently deliver an approach to your customers. So the way that you figure it out, first of all, is to determine what's the problem that you're solving for your customers, and then what is the result to that problem, right? So if somebody's starting at point A and they want to finish at point B, your job is to identify like what's A and what's B, and then create the path between the two. That path is your proprietary methodology for how you help somebody go from where they are today to where they want to ultimately end up. So that is your authority framework, where you're defining your approach to how you help somebody go from where they are to where they want to be. So when you are identifying those steps, one of the easiest ways to do that is to look at how you're helping your customers today. Chances are, if you have multiple customers who are trying to solve the same problem, there's a way that you are helping each one of those customers that overlap, right? That's the same. You start here with step one, and then you continue forward along the path. If that's not happening, then I encourage you to start really thinking through, like, how can you help your customers? How can you own the process of helping your customers? A lot of times when people are working one-on-one with customers, they sort of let the customer drive the bus, right? And so it's like, well, what do you want to talk about today? How can I help you today? Or you're taking their order. Well, oh yeah, you want me to do that? Sure, I'll go back and do that. And then I'll let you know when I'm finished. And the problem with that is that puts you in a position where you become an order taker and not an expert. So I believe that everyone who has some skills in a particular area already are an expert in that area, right? You have a way of doing something. You have more skills than the people who are hiring you. And so your job is to give them the path, give them the fastest path to getting to the result. Because sometimes people say, why would people pay me when they can go and figure out the answer on their own? They can watch YouTube videos, they can do all the things. And truly the difference is that they're hiring you because you can get to the outcome faster than they can get to when they go out and try and figure it all out on their own. So if you're in a position where you haven't really honed in on how you deliver your expertise, that is the very first step. So just sit down and start thinking through either how do you help most of your customers go from point A to point B, or how would you if you were given authority in order to do that, right? So again, if you're in an order taking mode, meaning you just do whatever the customer asks you to do, take a step back and start to own the experience. When you can own the experience and show how your expertise can get them a result, you will have your very first shift in how you show up in your business. So instead of dealing with all of the fires that are going on or all of the whims of your clients, you are actually now starting to put together a standard approach that you'll drop people into, right? So you'll say, here is how we go from point A to point B. These are the things that we do, and this is the order we do it in. And now you start to drive the experience. You start to own how your clients are showing up and how they're doing whatever it is that they need to do to contribute to that bigger outcome that they're getting. So even if you're just in one-on-one work, this will change the game for you. And it is the very first step for you starting to productize your expertise. And the more you can start, even if you're doing one-on-one, the more you can start owning and being the driver of the experience, the more you're going to start seeing the shift, so that your customers have that confidence, they have that clarity, they know exactly how you're helping them, and they know how to follow the path, right? So the thing it will do for you is actually provide you with the path that gives you focus, that gives you clarity, that helps you have the confidence to continue to move the relationship forward. So instead of your client being in the driver's seat, you are in the driver's seat, they're in the passenger seat, and they are being the participant or the passenger in the experience. You're driving the experience. So that's a very first shift to make. And if you have not been in this position and your client is in the driver's seat, you know what I'm talking about, right? And so at the very first part of defining your authority framework is really just in your current client base, start to make that shift, start to show up differently and own the experience. One specific example I'll give you is we've been working with a vendor who is building some funnels for one of my clients. And we went to a full day session that was supposed to be a strategy session. And the goal was to map out the strategy, map out what was needed to be done in this relationship as we went forward. And what we found was they didn't have a signature methodology. They didn't have an approach that was like, okay, this is how we do this for all of our customers. This is what it looks like. Here's how we're putting your unique pieces into the puzzle. This is what the experience looks like. It's standard for all of our clients. We have a specific approach that we use, and this is how we get it done. This is how we go from point A to point B. This is what it looks like. Here's how we drive the process. Here's how you're in the passenger seat where we're putting in your specific items. But they didn't own the process. They didn't own the relationship. And so what happened was ultimately at the end of the day, the client wasn't satisfied because she felt like she was feeding the relationship. She felt like she had to create the path and they just were implementing whatever it is she asked for, which ultimately at the end of the day didn't serve anyone. It frustrated the client, it frustrated the partner, and at the end of the day, it was not a good relationship, and so they parted ways because it wasn't a good match. So that's an example. If you're finding that happening in your one-on-one business, your customers are coming to you because they think that you have the solution that they're looking for. They're not coming to you because they need an extra pair of hands. They don't necessarily need somebody to execute. Maybe they do, but I guarantee that if you want to charge a higher price point, own the relationship, own the experience, give them the confidence that you have the system that takes them from point A to point B. So that's the very first thing. You can do that within your current business, and then all of a sudden you'll start seeing structurally how things will change, how your clients will show up, how you'll show up, and how the work actually gets done and feels easier for everyone. We did this in our agency where we could guarantee within like 85 to 90% accuracy that we would meet or match the budget and the timeline because we had a signature methodology. We drove the process. We knew exactly what was going to happen at every stage of the game. We didn't have to guess. There was no going rogue, and things just kept moving forward, right? And when you can do that, when you get to that level of confidence, you know you've nailed your authority framework. And so then you can take your authority framework once you have that and start thinking about how you can deliver it, and I always say infinitely deliver it, in different ways to get to the same outcome with different modalities, right? With a program, with a group program, with a mastermind, with an event, with a book, whatever you can dream up, right? We're currently working on a large scale certification program just based on someone's authority framework. Once that's set, then you can deliver it in a lot of different ways, but you got to set it up first, right? You've got to have that clarity. You've got to have that confidence. Then the next piece of that is it really also gives you focus. It gives you a path to follow so that you don't get distracted, so that you don't go off on multiple tangents. And so you can effectively grow and scale your business either by creating systems, by creating team, by creating different delivery mechanisms that allow you to deliver it consistently. One of the key tenets of our infinite scale method is that you're able to take your authority framework turn it into a training program that becomes the foundation for your business. And so regardless of how someone is coming in and showing up in the different scalable offers that you have, they are all going through the same step-by-step path, right? They're all going through your authority framework as a foundational training program. And it's already all defined. You have all of the training, activities, the step-by-step, the templates, all of the things. You're not recreating it every single time you get a new customer, which automatically starts to allow you to grow and scale because you're not repeating yourself. You're not making more stuff up as you're going. You're just adding different ways that you can show up in the business. But it all starts with that authority framework. So my question for you today is, do you have your authority framework mapped out? 1, do you know what it is? 2, do you have it mapped out from point A to point B, all the steps that it takes to go from the problem to the solution? And do you have it somewhere visually that you can show it to prospective clients, to your clients that you have, to your team, and to whoever else needs to see it to move forward? Here's the trick when you know that you've got it. You look at it and you're like, this is stupid simple, right? How can I share this with people? Because they're going to be like, oh, I can do this. It's super easy. Step 1, step 2, step, right? Like you're going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, like I'm going to give this to someone and they're going to be able to execute on the step-by-step path. And the beauty of it is that because it looks stupid simple to you, that means that you're in your zone of genius. When people are looking at that, they're going to be like, wow, they really know exactly what the path is. I want to work with them because they have the confidence and the clarity of how they're going to go from point A to point B. Very rarely will somebody look at that path and go, oh, I can just take this and do it myself, because it's not easy for them. There are parts and pieces of it that are not within, usually, your client's zone of genius or within sort of their realm of where they want to be spending their time and attention. But having it gives them that level of confidence in you and your business and what you do so that they feel 100% sure that you are the right person to help them, just because you're able to clearly articulate your path. So if you've been in a situation where you have tried to hire people, think about what it would look like if you were to go into a sales conversation with someone and they said, here's our proprietary methodology. It's called XYZ framework. And here is how we go from this problem that you have to this result. Here are the exact steps that we take. And here's how we go about doing that. And we can do that in this time frame. And here's some examples of how we've done it for other clients. When you go into a sales conversation with someone else and they give you that level of clarity and insight into how they're going to deliver, it's not about the mechanics. It's not about the tools and templates and whether it's a course or a program or a mastermind or a one-on-one or a whatever it is. It's about the fact that you are showing them that you know exactly how to get from point A to point B. They're like, yes, sign me up. On the flip side, have you been in a sales conversation where they're like, well, yeah, I mean, we can help you get to this result in 90 days and you'll just drop in and we'll get you to that result and it will be great. Just trust us. And this is how we do it. We have a phone call once a week and then we give you some things to do. And then you can call us and let us know if there's anything that you want us to do. And we put together kind of a plan. We have kind of we have a kickoff call. And then from there, we just go weekly until we get to the 90 days or we get to your result. 2 totally different approaches. The second one, you're like, okay, well, I mean, I think that you know what you're going to do, but I guess I trust you. Sure, I'll try it. Versus in the first example, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, great. Like you're gonna drive this for me. You're gonna help me make sure that I show up and do all the things that I'm supposed to do to help you be successful. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. I know exactly what the plan is. So 2 different approaches, And you have heard these in sales conversations. So flip it around and really think about how you can show up differently in a sales conversation if and when you defined your authority framework. So that's why we make that foundational piece. Once you have that, you can start to productize your expertise into scalable offers. You can show that there's multiple ways that people can work with you depending on price point, depending on what they're trying to do, depending upon their appetite for whether they want one-on-one, live, virtual, hybrid, whatever it is, right? So there's a million different ways to deliver on your promise. But when you give them the steps on how to get from point A to point B, they have the confidence to know that you have the structure and the system and the process to get them there. Everything else is icing on the cake. So there you go. I encourage you to take some time and just start to document and look at the trends or the patterns within your current business with your current clients. What does that look like? How do you start to transform from being in the passenger seat for your clients to being in the driver's seat? Start to make that transition. That is the very first part of this game. All right, if you have questions, if you want to talk more about this, if you're not exactly sure what your authority framework is within your expertise, use the show notes, grab some time on my calendar, and let's talk through it, because this, my friends, is the very first step of how you start to become infinitely scalable as a scalable expert. All right, until next time, if you love this episode, share it with a friend, give us a rating, a like, ring the bell, do all the things regardless of where you're listening, and we appreciate you, and we will talk to you next week.